All right, welcome to our first episode of our undetermined named podcast. Right now, we're just gonna call it the football pod or something like that, or the locked pod. So that's how we're gonna go. My name is Sam.
My name's Tony.
All right, and we are cousins, and we've got these locks for you guys, and we're ready to go. All right, so let's hop right into it now. We're going to go over to our recap of last week, which was a pretty rough outing for me. I went 3-6 this week. What about you, Tony?
I went 5 of 7 last week.
5 of 7. That's honestly not too bad. You know what? I might have gone 3 for 5 last week. I might have miscounted. But I'll go over mine real quick. I had my wins where I had Michigan plus 1.5, which was easy work against, was it Wisconsin?
Yeah,
I
I
had
also had that.
Yep, I had Michigan State locked up at minus 10.5. Easy win
Mm-hmm.
over, was it Western Michigan? Something like that.
Western Kentucky.
Western Kentucky. And I had Oregon State minus 2.5, which was a win.
I talked you into that one.
Yeah, you talked me into that one, the Braves game. And my losses, another one that you talked me into, I had UCLA locked up at minus 3.
That was
Not
hard
a
to
good pick for
pass.
me.
It was a
Not a,
very bad pick.
I still do believe that UCLA is a pretty good team, but just not the pick we needed.
No.
And then I had Baylor plus 4. Didn't even get close to that one. I had Florida minus 7.5. Honestly, a huge upset in my opinion. I can't believe the Wildcats did that, and I
I
also
don't.
cannot believe that the Wildcats are 16th.
I don't think they're a better team than Florida. I think they just were the better team for the day.
I agree. I had a regrettable take. I took the over of 79 for Bama and Ole Miss. I don't know what got into me. I guess I figured last game, I think it was 63-48, and I saw that. I saw green go lights, and I went for it, and it
It's
didn't really get close.
it's hard not to take the over.
It's hard not to take the over because who wants to root against it, right? I mean,
It's un-American to take the under. You just
exactly.
can't
It is
do it.
un-American. And my last loss was Notre Dame plus 2. I hate the Irish. I hated them the whole season. I didn't. I rooted against them for every
Hmm.
game. And the one game I picked them in, I said I think that they're going to win because they're just a team that finds a way to win, and they lose to Cincinnati. I mean,
Yeah,
what are you
I
even
could
going
have
to do with
told you
it?
that.
Oh, okay, okay.
And then, hey, don't forget we also picked Arkansas uh,
Yeah,
as the 17-point underdog against Georgia, and we both lost that one big
yeah,
time. That
big
was
time. What was
very
that?
regrettable.
37-0 or something like that. I mean,
Yeah,
it wasn't even close. I mean,
something I don't want to remember. It broke my
in
$10
fact, I
heart.
didn't want to remember it so much that I didn't even write it down. That's
No.
how little I want to talk about it. Let's hear your wins and losses from last weekend.
Well, I had a few similar ones, such as the Michigan, Oregon State, and Michigan State. And
Yep.
then we also watched the end of the BYU covering against Utah State, which was making me a little bit nervous there.
That
Um,
happens.
and then Mississippi State and Texas A&M hit the over of 46 with in like the last 5 minutes of the game. Um, and then yeah, the Oregon State they covered on the last second field goal because they're in -2.5 and they won by 3. That was
Yep.
beautiful. That
Yeah,
was
it was. It was.
even though I can't get Pac-12 network because I don't believe it actually exists, but that apparently that's what it was on. But we both won, and then we both finish off the day losing with those damn Bruins over in Los Angeles.
Those Bruins. Those Bruins. It was Arizona State. I mean, who would think?
I know,
The Sun Devils.
I know. And then I finished off the week with a nice 6-team parlay in the NFL, and about half of them were wrong. So
I'm not
it,
even
it
going to
was
talk about that. I'm
it
not
was
even
over.
gonna
It was over before it started.
It was. We had taken. Let's see. I had a little parlay cooked up. I had Tampa Bay covering by 6.5 points. And I had Tom Brady going over 25.5 receptions, and neither of them hit.
Nope.
So that was super exciting for us. So that was our recap of last weekend. Obviously, we are skilled at this. So this is pretty good advice you're getting. This is some A1 Wagyu beef kind of locks that you're getting from us.
We
So we're going to
we have
dive
our
into
masters in the locks.
exactly. Yes, I got my bachelor degree in locking it up. So
We're we're locksmiths out here.
exactly. Exactly. So that's going to finish it for our recap of the last weekend, and now we're going to dive into our new locks for the week. All right, and we are back. We're going to give our locks of the week. So we decided the way we're going to do this, we're going to pick four locks, for sure locks, something that is 100% going to hit, with at least two top 25 matchups and at least another team in top 25. So these are going to be locks where they're probably favorites, and we just think they're going to hit. And then after that, we're going to have our wild cards, which are going to be underdogs. Now, we established that was going to be at least a plus 140 underdog, but I'm not going to lie. I took a plus 135 dog this week. I just liked the game too much, and
I
I didn't see anything over plus 140 that I really
I
wanted.
I did too, so I'm on the
Okay,
same
okay.
boat as you.
All right, awesome. So I think the way we're going to do this is we're going to talk about our locks first. So I'll start off with my first lock of the day. I'll give you my reasoning behind it, and then you can dive in and tell me what you think about it, or if you picked against me. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So my first one, big noon game. I have Arkansas locked up at +6 going into Ole Miss. I really like this game. I'm thinking both teams are coming off pretty much the two toughest games in the country against Bama and Georgia. I don't think either of them played particularly well. At halftime, Bama was beating Ole Miss by 28 points, and Georgia was beating Arkansas by 24 points. After halftime, I know we saw Ole Miss kind of bounce back there, but I don't think that we can really put a lot into that. I think that Nick Saban probably put the brakes on it there. He only scored 14 points in the second half to Ole Miss's 21, and I'm sure that he had pulled some starters and probably wasn't running his full defensive schemes. If I really had to guess, let's see. Ole Miss is third in total offense, while Arkansas is 54th. Now I don't think that bodes well for Arkansas. But at the same time, I think Arkansas has faced a much harder schedule. So it's been a lot harder to have a lot of offensive production when you're playing games like Texas, A&M. You're playing against Georgia, obviously, does not help your offensive production, right? And Arkansas also has the ninth best defensive rating, while Ole Miss is a 68. So I think that this could kind of be. I think it's going to be a close game, considering that either it's a much better defensive team or a much better offensive team. So I think that should be interesting. So Arkansas only put up 161 against Georgia, while Ole Miss put up 261 total yards of offense against the 13th defensive ranked Bama. I'm not really sure what to think of these stats. Considering Georgia's so hard to look at against, just because they've allowed pretty much like under 200 yards to everybody they face this season. I still think it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be a close game. I really was thinking about taking Arkansas outright money line, but I like the 6 points. I think that they're going to cover that. I think that's, if anything, this game's going to come down to like 3. I feel like on a neutral site, maybe you could edge out one or the other team by 2 points, but I think it'll be pretty close. I still think that Arkansas is second best in the SEC West. It's a shaken up division right now, considering all these teams are playing each other. I like their rush offense. I think they're going to be able to pound the ball on Ole Miss. That's pretty much what I'm thinking for that game. So,
I actually agree. The thing
okay.
is, this was one of my upsets of the week, and this I actually picked 7 games, and I picked 3 upsets because I knew this was going to happen, and so because I took Arkansas outright at plus 190, because I totally agree with everything you say. I think they're both trying to bounce back from big losses against the two best teams in not only the SEC but the country. And so
Yeah.
but I simply think Arkansas is just the better team. Alabama and Georgia are just you can't really compare these teams when they go up against the two powerhouses in FBS.
Yeah,
And
the
so
two
even
favorites, for the championship.
yeah,
Both of them at plus 140 right now to take
yeah,
for SEC
so
championship.
it's kind of hard to compare since they both just played poorly, but against the best possible teams you could play against. and we won't know which one of them are better until they have a chance to face off. And so, but I agree. I think Arkansas is going to come out a lot stronger than Ole Miss, and even though Ole Miss has a lot better offense with with Lane Kiffin out there calling plays, I think Arkansas just they're going to be fired up after getting held to a big donut hole against Georgia, and they're going to come out strong and score on the first drive and kind of just hold the lead the rest of the game. But I think it'll be close. I just think it'll be like a 28-27 type of game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be close as well. So I have Arkansas +6. You said you got the money line on them.
Yeah, plus
I like it.
190.
I like it. I was
So
looking at it, but
that
I
was the
didn't.
only like upset because I was trying to get multiple over 140 and I saw 190. I'm like, I gotta take it. I don't see them losing to Ole Miss. I just don't.
I like it. I like it. All right, let's move on to our next game. Tony, you
Okay.
lead off.
Um, my next game is you probably picked the same game, but I got Georgia minus 15 at Auburn. I just I just think Georgia's easy. They have the best defense in the country. They've only allowed 4 points per game, and the next closest is Iowa, which is allowing 11.6 points per game. And they did that even though Clemson is not Clemson this year. They only held Clemson to 3 points, and then they held a really good Arkansas team to 0. And so, like, they're managing to have the best defense against really good teams, and then they just have the best. I mean, I know Auburn isn't bad. I mean, but LSU's not great, and they were close with LSU all game last week, and Auburn struggled with Georgia State not that long ago. So and when Georgia has the best pass defense and the fourth best rush defense based on yards, but I really don't see a Bo Nix led Auburn scoring more than 10 points on this Georgia defense. I think it's going to be another Georgia Arkansas, and it's going to end up being like 35-7.
I completely agree. I have the exact same thing locked up. Georgia -15. I wish I got
Mm-hmm.
it Georgia -14.5.
Me too.
I had to get it at -15 because when I checked last night, it was at -15.5. So I think Vegas
Oh.
is showing us that. I think a lot of people are thinking the exact same thing as us.
Mm-hmm.
Also, just some quick little stats about it. I don't think that Georgia's offense is going to have any kind of problem whatsoever. Auburn has the 22nd best defensive rating. Also, just want to put out there, though, that Auburn has had a pretty cupcake schedule other than Penn State. Um, Otherwise, they've just been playing a bunch of random teams. They almost lost to Georgia State at home,
Yep.
34-24. Does not really show that game because I had picked Auburn covering the spread in that game, and I watched the game pretty closely, and they were losing for the majority of that game. So they
Yeah.
really got lucky to come back there, in my opinion, and
Yeah.
win that game. And the points were pretty much at the end of the game. Also, Georgia's closest games, points wise, were to Clemson, who has the 28th best defense, and South Carolina, whoop whoop, 26th best defense. South Carolina obviously got beat by 27 points, but that's the second closest game that Georgia's had the entire season. Auburn has the
Yeah.
22nd best defense. Like I said, I just don't think. I think that defensive ring is a bit blown out of proportion right now. They haven't had a lot of SEC matchups yet, and they have a 17th offensive rating, which I think is good. But again, they haven't played anybody other than Penn State.
I mean,
Um,
LSU's not a bad team, and they won in Death Valley, but it's just
no,
LSU's
but
not the team they were 2 years ago.
yeah, LSU is LSU. I
They're
don't even
they're
think that
about
they're a good team. Let
average.
me see what LSU is right now in the SEC West.
LSU, they're notorious for being an 8-win team every year, and then every like 5 to 10 years they have one national championship caliber team,
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
and that's where they are right now.
if we look at let me check them real quick. If we look at the SEC West right now, yeah, I mean they're 3-2 right now. They're 1-1 in the conference. I mean, I don't know. I don't think that's a great team right
I
now.
wouldn't consider it an impressive win, but I wouldn't say it's a cupcake win. It's
No,
middle of
I
the
wouldn't
road,
either. I
especially
just
since it was at LSU and it was a pretty packed crowd.
Yeah, exactly. I just really cannot see. I just don't see Auburn being the giant slayer here. Even at home, I just everyone has had such a hard time scoring against Georgia. I think the
Hmm.
most points they've allowed this season is 13, and most of those points were in trash time. So, I mean, I really just don't. I don't see how Auburn could keep up with this team. I think they're going to get blown out. I mean, honestly, I feel like taking. I would take an under on 7 points on Auburn for the first half. I mean,
Yeah, I
for total
agree.
team for total team offense, I don't think that they are. I don't think they're going to be able to do it with Georgia. I think that Georgia's just going to snuff them out, and I think that Georgia could seriously just pound the ball against them all game, play a slow game, and win this game by I don't know 28-3. I mean, I see that being totally likely.
Yeah, we're totally on the same page.
We have some unity there.
Yeah.
All right, I think that ends up that one. So we're going to dive into our next lock. Let's see. That was a
You want to
3:30
go?
game. Yeah, I'll hit it. This one. This one, I'm feeling a little nervous about it, but I got Iowa locked up at -2. I wish I got them at -1.5, which is what the line shifted to moments after I took the bet. So I could not cash it out anymore and change it to -1.5. So that's a little bit upsetting. But I just see this. If this game was in Penn State, I would take Penn State -2. But
Hmm.
being at this game's in Iowa, they're coming off a huge road game, beating up on a formerly undefeated Maryland team, who I thought had a pretty high-powered offense.
I
And
with what's his name, Twalia
yeah,
Tagovailoa. I
yeah, yeah,
thought,
yeah. Other Tua.
yeah.
um, so I thought that was a pretty good team. And also, my biggest concern about Iowa going into last week was kind of their lack of offensive production. Um, but they definitely turned that around. I felt like, and I mean, they scored. It was like 54 points or something, 51 points. I mean, they beat the crap out of Maryland.
Yeah.
So I see that on them, and they also they have the second best defense right behind Georgia. I mean, they really lock it up. They have a great secondary. Um, I mean, I think that the Iowa secondary had more official targets than the Maryland receivers did last game. Um,
Well, to counter that, Penn State has the third best defense, and they only allow point 0.4 more points per game
yeah,
for
yeah,
this week. So I think it's going to be a classic Big Ten defensive battle. I mean, like you said, the Iowa, they looked good offensively against Maryland. So maybe that's them turning it around. But defensively, both teams are up there with
yeah.
the
I
best
think this is
teams.
going to be a stout. I think it's going to be like a 17-14 kind of game.
That's exactly how
You know,
every Big
yeah.
Ten game should
It's going
go.
to come down to it's going to be like 14-10, and I'm hoping that it's 14-10 Penn State and Iowa gets like some kind of crazy touchdown or something. Like where they slowly run it down the field and punch it in. I feel like that's kind of how this is going to go.
Or some
Um,
crazy catch with like 3 minutes left of the game.
exactly. I think on a neutral field again. I think this is like on a neutral field. I think this is a super close game. It could go either way. But at home, I don't see why Iowa couldn't cover 2 points. I mean, my luck, it's going to be like 16-17. But, we'll see. I think Penn State's faced a stronger opponent in Auburn. But at the same time, they had pretty much the most intimidating home field advantage in college football of the Happy Valley whiteout. So,
Agreed.
that's
Yeah,
how I'm thinking about that.
I I I felt this game was too close to call to pick. I really wanted to pick it, but the more I looked into it, I liked Penn State, and then I on the other hand, then I like Iowa. I was just if there was a game, it was just way too close to call in my opinion. So I respect you for taking Iowa on this. I since they're at home, I not surprised if they cover. I just think both teams are really equal. I mean, one's their defenses, like I said, are right next to each other. They're both ranked 3 and 4 respectively. So I think they got a really good chance at having like this is one of the better matchups of the year. It's going to end up being a 3 point game. I don't see it being any more than that.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be really close. So I think it's gonna be a nail biter, and it's gonna be something for me to do from 4 o'clock to 7:30. So I'm gonna be pretty excited about this game on Saturday. Um, All right, I think that wraps up that one. So, do you have any play on that game?
I did not touch that
Did not.
game at all because I thought it was way too close to call.
Gotcha. Okay, so we're both locked up. We both have. So you have Arkansas money line. I have Arkansas +6, and that's one of your wild card games, right?
That is one of my wild card games.
All right, and then we both have Georgia locked up at -15, and I have Iowa at -2. All right, Tony, let's hear the next lock.
So I know I picked. There are a couple teams I picked the same from last week, but the one that I felt is just going to be a complete lock is Michigan State -5 at Rutgers. I know Michigan State went to overtime with Nebraska, and I don't think Nebraska is that great, but just the way I saw them pound Miami is just so in Miami it was just so embarrassing for the Hurricanes, and then the fact that they have their offense, their quarterback Peyton Thorne, he has 11 touchdowns and 1 interception, which you can't ask more for a quarterback to have a ratio like that at this point in the season. And then on top of that, their running back Kenneth Walker III, he leads all of FBS in rushing yards right now. So when you got a quarterback and a running back that both are playing at the top level, I mean, I wouldn't say Peyton Thorne's one of the best quarterbacks, but he's doing what a quarterback is supposed to do. And then you have a running back behind him who's leading all of FBS and rushing yards right now.
Yeah, a Heisman favorite.
Exactly.
An absolute monster.
And so your offense is they're gonna click. And Rutgers, I don't want to disrespect them. I don't think they're a bad team. I feel like Michigan State is just that much better of a team that they'll cover the 5 points. So maybe Rutgers will try and keep it close and it'll be competitive. I feel like this Michigan State offense is gonna keep it rolling, and this will probably end up being like a 31-21 type of game. Not like a blowout, because I respect Rutgers, but I think Michigan State's just a better team, and they're gonna find a way to cover.
Yeah, I didn't take this game. I didn't really want to partake in it, mostly just because my noon schedule's booked and I don't have enough TVs. But the only thing I'm hesitant about is Rutgers does play some teams pretty close. They played Michigan just by 7 points, which kind of makes me nervous. I don't really know who's better between Michigan and Michigan State.
I think that'll be a great game this year.
I think that's going to be an awesome game this year. But I had no play on this. To be honest, I don't really know a ton about Rutgers. I know they have kind of a stout defense. They don't really score a lot of points. But that they've been able to play teams close, and I think it's going to be a relatively close game. But I like it. I think that Michigan State, I see no reason why they can't cover by 5 points. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I would not be surprised if something happened, if something kind of weird happened with this.
I wouldn't be surprised either if Rutgers did, but there's just something telling me that Michigan State's going to cover.
Yeah.
And every time, I even took Michigan State a couple times last year. I don't want to jinx myself, but every time I pick Michigan State to cover, they manage to do it. So maybe that might be my lucky team from now on. So, but I'm picking Michigan State to cover, and so until they don't cover, I'm gonna keep picking them. So if you're a Spartans fan, I'm doing this for you.
I like that. I think ride with a team. You find one, you ride with them, right? Ride or die. That's what it's about.
Hell yeah.
All right. So you got that locked up. Pretty exciting. I think that we are going to move to our next one, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Anything else to say about it?
Nope. Next lock.
All right. I've talked about 3 of my locks now. So my last official lock it up, 3:30 game. In Syracuse, I got Wake Forest -6. Sorry. I know you're a big Orange Auto fan.
That hurts, but I can't blame you.
Yeah, I just, I didn't even write a lot of notes on this. I was honestly shocked when I saw this line.
I was too, but I can't bet against Syracuse, so I had to leave it alone.
Yeah, I understand that. it's the same reason I didn't take Tennessee minus 10.5. I think they're going to beat the crap out of South Carolina, but what are you going to do? Yeah, I just like Wake Forest for this. Wake Forest is the only undefeated team in the ACC right now. In my opinion, they're the best
Wow.
team in the ACC. They're the best looking team in the ACC right now. I mean, Clemson doesn't have any kind of offense. Wake's kind of got things going right now. They're going to be 5-0, or they are 5-0. Could probably will be 6-0 after this. I don't see how Syracuse upsets them. I know they're going to be at home, but it's not like Syracuse is like a top 10 hardest stadium to play in. I mean, maybe if they get lucky and there's 5 feet of snow.
It's in a dome.
Yeah, okay, well, there you go. So that's how little I know about Syracuse. What I do know about Syracuse is that they lost by 3 to Florida State, who I think is the worst team in the ACC. Lost by 3 to them, and then Wake Forest beat Florida State 35-14. I just don't see this game. I don't see this going well for Syracuse. I had to snatch it right up as soon as I saw it. I mean, give me Wake Forest by a touchdown and miss the extra point. That's all day long, I think.
I wish I could disagree with you, but I don't. I mean, Syracuse. They have Sean Tucker, he's third in FBS right now in rushing yards, and he's really good, and he leads Syracuse in receiving yards. But that kind of shows you the fact that the running back is leading the team in receiving yards. It's not looking too sharp.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
just
kind of and like you said, they lost to Florida State. I don't think you can bounce back from losing by a field goal to Florida State to then beat the best team in the ACC at this moment right now.
and the
And so
only ranked team from the ACC.
I would like to counter that. There's 2 ranked ACC teams because NC State is also ranked at 4-1. They're 23rd.
Are they really? I thought I just
Yes.
checked the thing last night.
No, the AP poll, NC State is ranked 23rd.
What about the coaches poll? Are they on there?
I have not checked the coaches poll.
Let me check it really quick. USA Today coach poll. Coach poll hasn't been 22nd. All right. My bad. Either way.
Fine, you're excused to miss an ACC team that ranked in the 20s.
Yeah, right. And that's just for this week. Who knows what's going to happen by the end of the week?
Exactly.
With the ACC, it's been so up and down. But
Yeah.
I just thought that was a surefire game. I don't really. I'm not super excited about the game, but I don't see. I just thought that this was too juicy to pass up. I mean, this was just
I don't
sitting out
blame you.
there. I mean, that's just sitting. I feel like that's low hanging fruit almost. Like it's right there. Hey, maybe I'm wrong, but I really like this Wake Forest squad. I think they're a good team, and I think they're going to march up to New York, and I think they're going to beat the crap out of Syracuse. If it was like plus 14.5 or minus 14.5, I would have been a lot less tempted. But I think that Wake Forest is really going to handle this team by double digits.
I don't blame you for taking that. I respect it.
So how many locks? Those are all 4 of my locks right there. How many locks do you have left?
I have 2 more locks.
Okay, so let's go knock out both your 2 locks. We already did your wild card, so then we'll do both my wild cards after these 2 locks.
So my first lock is Michigan minus 3.5 at Nebraska. So like I said, it's a tough one. Like I said, like Nebraska hasn't really looked horrible this year. There's something about Scott Frost and Nebraska football that just makes me think they're not going to do well against Michigan. And I usually hate on Michigan at the beginning of the year, but I think they're looking really good, especially after how they performed at Wisconsin this last week.
Well, I don't think that Wisconsin holds any grain of salt at this point. Wisconsin has proven that they are an incapable team of pretty much doing anything this season.
I don't either, but I think Nebraska isn't as good as Wisconsin. And so I think Michigan will easily cover the 3.5 points. Even though it's in Nebraska, I think Michigan showed they can handle a packed stadium in the Big Ten. And I think they're going to go into Nebraska, win by I think 14 points. So that's my bold take on the game. Would you disagree?
I'm actually going to have to fight you on that. I have I have Nebraska as my wild card locked up at plus 150.
Aw.
I'll give you my rationale on this. I think Nebraska is a good team. They're following Nebraska closely. Their record does not portray that. Yes, they had an upsetting loss to Illinois in the first week. I'm not going to count that because first week of college football. Teams develop. But let's see. They lost to number 6 Oklahoma 23-16 in Oklahoma. That's a tough place. Obviously, Spencer Rattler has not been the quarterback that everyone thought he would be over Oklahoma this season. But still, it's not like Oklahoma's a bad team. They're still number 6. They still produce wins. So, I thought Nebraska was hung on within 7 points there. And if you watch that Michigan State Nebraska game, Nebraska only lost in overtime by 3 points. I thought that was a super close game, and I really thought that Nebraska could have won it if they had maybe used the clock a little bit better on their last drive of the game. They had the ball on that last drive, and they opted to go try to shoot it out in overtime with Michigan State, which I think was a coaching mistake. I think they should have gone for it. They ended up not, and I think it cost them the game. So, I like Nebraska. And Michigan has played 0 top 25 opponents this season. So, Nebraska's played 2 already. They've had super close games with them. I just have a weird feeling. I don't know. I think one of these teams needs to lose. I think that Michigan or Michigan State, they're not going to go undefeated going into that Michigan State game. We all know that. I just feel like Nebraska's a team that can throw them off. I like it as the wild card. I like plus 150. Not too crazy or anything. Can still get you a little bit of earnings from that. I just like that game, and I like rooting for an underdog.
I know Nebraska had a close game against Michigan State, but you pointed out how they had a close game against Oklahoma. Name me how many teams Oklahoma has defeated by more than a touchdown this year. There's one, Western Carolina. They beat Tulane by 5. They beat Nebraska by 7. They beat West Virginia by 3, and they beat Kansas State by 6. Oklahoma's not a good team. I don't care what their ranking says. Oklahoma's just not good. They can't beat any team besides Western Carolina by more than a touchdown. And I think that Nebraska playing close to Oklahoma just means nothing. That means absolutely nothing to me. Yes, being close to Michigan State, I can respect, which is why my pick does make me a bit nervous, but I do think Michigan is going to win this one.
And I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a close game.
I think we can agree to disagree, and we'll come back next week on this game.
Yes.
To see who's right about that.
It'll probably be both of us will be wrong if I guess. It's going to be like Nebraska loses by, 2 points.
Yeah.
All right. And then what's your last lock?
My last lock is another team I picked last week. Is BYU minus 5.5 against Boise State. Boise State could not finish off against UCF when they probably should have won that. Or Oklahoma State, who's not a bad team. But I think BYU's run game is just going to completely dominate Boise State because BYU's running back, Tyler I'm not exactly 100% sure how to pronounce it, Algier. I need to find out how to pronounce that. But he's 8th in the nation in rushing yards with 564 rushing yards, and he has 7 rushing touchdowns. And on top of that, Boise State is one of the worst rush defenses, allowing 191 yards per game. When I looked on the page, they're in the bottom out of the 130 FBS teams. I think they're ranked like 109th. And so they're just not a good running defense. And so I think BYU's going to completely abuse that. and completely just dominate the run game and take advantage. And that's how BYU is going to cover this a 5.5 point spread. And
Yeah,
correction, Boise State's 104th for rushing yards allowed per game.
yeah, I like this pick too. I don't have any kind of action on that. Is this a 10:30 game? It sounds
I
like a
actually
10:30 game, right?
I did not look at any of the times.
Any times?
Uh,
This feels like a 10:30 game. I can.
it feels like it is, but for some reason I feel like it was like 8 o'clock. It was at a really it was not at the time you'd expect a yeah, it's at 3:30. That's not a time you'd ever expect a BYU Boise State game to be.
It's a day game though.
Yeah, a day game at BYU, which who's number 10 in the country despite losing Zach Wilson last year. So I got to give them props,
And what do
and
you
I'm
got it at?
giving 5.5.
I like 5.5. It's at -6 right now, so I like that. And it's
Yeah,
trending your way. I feel like this is a game that like BYU should own this game. Really, I like the spread a lot in this. The only way I think that it doesn't hit is if Boise State like wins outright on some kind of a bunch of trick plays
mm-hmm.
and little inky dink kind of passes and screens and stuff like that. I think they would have to be real clever and cute with everything to do
Yeah,
that. I don't see them playing this close. I think it's either going to be they get beat up by BYU or they somehow pull off a win in this. Only at +190, which is honestly kind of surprising.
yeah, that is surprising.
Yeah, which is interesting. But all right, I like that though. I think that's not a bad lock.
Yes.
Um, so let's see.
So I still have two wild cards left, and you have one.
I have one. So you go ahead with one.
So this one, I think our other one, I think my other upset might be yours, but this one, this one's kind of a random game. I don't know why. I have some feeling in my gut, but East Carolina at UCF plus 310 outright. I just
What time is this game on? I'm trying to look at this line.
this game,
Oh, I found it. I found it. +310.
I something about it is just
it's
I
screaming, right?
I know. I think it's going to be an even game. They UCF just they came off a loss against the winless Navy, and so what I just feel like after losing that UCF has lost a lot of credibility this year. And right now, East Carolina's on a 3-game win streak, and right before the start of that win streak, they almost beat South Carolina. So I think they're going to keep rolling, and they're going to catch UCF on a little bad streak right now, and they're going to make this 4 wins in a row. And their running back, I've had to think about running backs this this pod because
Yeah,
their
right.
running
Yeah,
back,
you've been talking about running backs a lot.
but their running back Keaton Mitchell is 6 in FBS with 574 rushing yards, and so I think it's probably going to be a pretty high scoring game, and there's probably going to be at least 4 total turnovers this game. I just I think this is going to be a shootout in the air, on the ground, all over the place. It's going to be a fun game to watch, even though not many people will probably watch it. But if you do, it's going to be a fun one to watch. Mark my words, East Carolina is going to come down to Orlando and they're going to walk away on a 4-game win streak.
I kind of like it. I like it. Maybe I'll have to. No, I don't like it
I don't think you're going to
enough.
watch it. I'll follow it while I'm at work, but I wouldn't tell you to watch it until it's the fourth quarter and you see ECU's up by 7 on UCF.
The problem is that one screen is going to be devoted to the Braves at that time because
And
Braves are hopping on at 5 o'clock.
respect.
Gotta watch the home team. Um, okay, I like that. I like that. All right, I'm not sure if this is exactly what you got locked up, but my last wild card lock Because I got the Longhorns plus 135.
Ooh.
I don't
I
know if that's what you
also
were thinking.
that is not. It's also plus 135, but it was not that. I will never bet on Texas.
That's yours.
Mine is LSU at Kentucky plus 135.
Oh, I don't like that at all.
I
I don't
didn't
like
think
that at
you
all.
would, and
Uh.
I I I I don't dislike yours, but I don't like it.
I mean,
We'll talk about your game first. We'll talk about Oklahoma, Texas.
I didn't even like really because this is just a wild card game. I didn't deep dive into all the stats and stuff like that. I mean, Oklahoma has had a really tough time scoring points.
Yes,
We
they
all know
have.
that.
Surprisingly.
Yeah, right. I mean, Radler, they're basically booing him out of the. I mean, they chanted the backup quarterback's name at a home game while they were winning. So I just don't really have a lot of faith in Oklahoma's offense. I think they have a pretty good defense, but I just like Texas. I like Texas. I mean, they're technically at home. I mean, they're going to be playing. It's going to be played in Dallas.
Hmm.
So it's not really a home game in Texas, but I think that Texas is going to have a little bit of a home field advantage just because it's in the state. Um, and I just think that Oklahoma's due for a loss. This team is not number 6 in the country. Honestly, I don't know if this team's in the top 15 in the country. With the way that they've been playing kind of a cupcake schedule. I think that their best opponent has been Nebraska. So I really just don't like Oklahoma. I think that the Horns got it this time, and I needed something for my wild card. I like this game. I didn't want to take anything crazy like Eastern Carolina plus 310. So, and Texas only losses to a good Arkansas team. I still think Arkansas is second best in the SEC West, even though Georgia beat up on them. I think Georgia would beat up on the Jets. So,
I wouldn't disagree.
yeah, right.
Or I'd say the Lions. I'd say the
I think
Lions
that
would be.
Georgia could come to the Big Body Benz and beat the Falcons. So that's what
Geor-
I think about that.
Georgia would be a 6-win team in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. So I think that you can't really hold that against Arkansas. Texas, I mean, yes, they lost to Arkansas, but Arkansas is still a good team. So I like this. I like this Texas team. I think that they could. I think they could beat Oklahoma. So that's going to be mine. Let's talk a little bit about what you had, and I actually have a special guest take that I'll put on here after you're done with your wild card.
Well, it's just something about LSU. I mean, Kentucky. I do not think Kentucky's better than Florida. I think they're going to come in and they're going to be on their high horse, thinking that they're a really good team. They think they just beat Florida and that they're one of the better teams in the SEC. But they also had close games with, no offense, South Carolina and also Missouri, who just got completely obliterated by an average Tennessee team. And
Yeah, I
then
don't think the Vols are anything special.
no,
I mean,
and then
I think that Mizzou is just that bad.
and then agreed. And then they also had a close game with Tennessee Chattanooga. So I don't think Kentucky's a good team. It was truly an upset. They got the better of Florida on one game because that's Kentucky Super Bowl is playing Florida every year. And so maybe a Kentucky fan would disagree and say maybe Louisville or Tennessee, but I really think that those Kentucky players play better against Florida than anyone else. It's an LSU, even though they lost to Auburn last week. I think it's going to be a close one, and like we talked earlier, LSU's nothing special, but I don't think Kentucky's special, and I think LSU's going to come in, and I think they're going to win by a field goal, and that's why I took them outright.
I think the real question is going to be is when LSU loses this game to Kentucky is when will they fire Ed Ogeron? Will they wait till the end of the season? Are they going to do it in the middle? Who knows?
Well, I think when he ends up rallying this team after this top 25 win, I think they're going to keep him along. And
Yeah,
he could turn it around next year,
he
but
could turn it. Go Tigers.
Go Tiger.
All
Even
right,
though they're
cool.
next, even though starting with Auburn, they play 6 straight ranked opponents in the SEC.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a rough schedule upcoming for them. And I think it's gonna be interesting to see if they can make a bowl game. I don't really have a lot of faith in this LSU squad, but I am interested to watch this game. Maybe I will tune in for a second to check the score on it. But I am not exactly sure. All right, so I think that wraps up all of our locks and our wild cards. I'm
Yep.
going to have this little guest appearance lock that I got from my father, a diehard Florida State fan. I'm going to say these bets have no bias whatsoever in them. He took Florida State plus 17.5 at North Carolina. I kind of like it. I don't hate it. But at the same time, I think that North Carolina could totally just destroy Florida State. And my favorite one is the Florida State plus 575 money line. Florida State's not going to win this game. I think they have a snowball's chance in hell to win this game, especially in UNC. I think UNC fans kind of rally around that team now. Have you seen that Briggs kid on TikTok?
I love that guy. The
Yeah,
sun goes
Briggs.
down, man.
Yeah, the sun goes down, man. I think there's going to be a lot of fans in the stands. I think they're going to beat Florida State. I think they're going to beat up on them. I kind of like plus 17.5, but I don't know. I don't know.
I think North Carolina is all over the place. I mean, they lost to Virginia Tech. This is not a bad team.
No, it's not a bad team.
But then they managed to go and beat the crap out of Georgia State and Virginia. But then they managed to go and lose 45-22 against Georgia Tech, and then come back and beat Duke 38-7. So North Carolina's all over the place.
I think
But
it's
the
going to
thing,
just, yeah, it's going to come
but
down to
the
a
thing
stroke of
is,
luck.
the thing is, even though North Carolina's all over the place, Florida State's in one place, and that's the bottom.
That's the
And
bottom of
I
the ACC.
and I think UNC covers.
I think so
So
too. I think so too. I was like, I don't know about this one. This feels like a bad take to me. Um,
17.5 is the only reason I don't think it's a horrible take. But
yeah, that's
I
gonna be
would
the game
not.
line as well.
I think the worst thing you can do this season is put any sort of money down on the Florida State Seminoles.
Well, and I've been burnt twice by Florida State thinking they were due, especially being blinded by a very close loss to Notre Dame at the very beginning of the season. Who would know that they would do that, and who would know that Mackenzie Milton would be this bad? Um,
Well, I could have told you that Notre Dame is not a good team. That
well,
you
they're not
just,
a bad team.
but
They're not a bad
they're
team.
Notre Dame.
They're
Let's
Notre Dame.
be
You never
honest,
know. You never know. I mean, they were fourth last season, but yeah, whatever.
and they showed why they shouldn't have been.
A bias bet you could take for me. We've seen about hammering plus 315 South Carolina. South Carolina Tennessee is usually a pretty close game. We play them pretty close. Both of us are always unranked, at least in my recent history of being a big South Carolina fan. But I don't like it. I don't like the way that the Vols just beat Mizzou by like 40 points, while we have been scraping by teams, barely covering against Troy at home. So I'm not feeling too confident going into Neyland, or however you pronounce it.
Mhm.
I think it's going to be a rough game for us. Honestly, I think minus 10.5 Tennessee is kind of generous. I could see it at minus 12.5. So I like the Vols in that game, sadly. They're also minus 420, which I think is hilarious. So
My bias pick would be TCU covering 2 points on Texas Tech.
I can see that, though. I can actually see that happening.
I think that's reasonable.
All right. So that's going to cover our college football stuff. And our next segment we're going to hop into is some, what'd you take, Friday night or Saturday night MLB games?
I think I just had it up. I took. I'm taking. I was gonna go with the Giants against the Dodgers, but it's just too close. I'm taking a Friday night. I'm gonna take the Astros minus 1.5 against the White Sox because they just beat on them 6-1, and I don't want to bet on the Astros. I mean, I don't think anyone would ever want to bet on the Astros,
No, I
but
don't think so.
I just so I'm just gonna pick the Astros -1.5 because I don't see them not winning by at least 3 or 4 runs
Yeah,
since they're
I
at
kind of like
home.
that. I kind of like that. I could see that. The only thing is with baseball, I mean, you see teams get routed 6-1. The next game they come back and it's like 2-1.
That's true.
That's the only thing that makes me hesitant with baseball spreads. I'm just gonna go ahead and go with mine. I don't think we need to talk like a bunch about these. Um, I'm gonna take. I'm gonna go ahead and take Tampa Bay, and I'm gonna parlay it with Los Angeles on Friday night.
Respect.
I like Mr. Shane Baz. I think he's a Baz ass. Um,
Hey,
um,
I can't be mad about the Rays.
I just want to talk about Boston for a second here. I do not like the Red Sox. I do not think that they deserve. I really watching that wild card game. They won that game because of a bad call from the Yankees third base coach to send Judge, and they also won that game because they have a 50-foot wall in their outfield. Otherwise, Juan Carlos Stanton is hitting 2 home runs over that wall. I mean, I think that game goes completely differently if they don't have a giant obstruction in their outfield. I think they won that game solely because of home park advantage there. And I think it was 11 other MLB stadiums. The first home run or the first hit would have been a home run, and the second one it hit the top of the monster. I don't see how it wouldn't have been a home run in every other stadium in the
Yeah,
country. I don't like the Red Sox. I
I
don't
love
like the
the
Yankees
Rays.
either. Um, and yeah, I like the Rays. I'm also watching the Rays currently beat Boston 5-0 right now in the bottom of the 8. Um,
I'm looking for
you
a
know,
sweep in this series.
yeah, I mean Tampa Bay's going to be at home again. I think they're going to go 2-0 right here. I like that a lot. And as far as the NLDS game one goes, I mean they got Bueller on the bump. I like the Dodgers. I mean I hate the Dodgers obviously because of the Braves, but
Who doesn't
I
hate the Dodgers?
who doesn't hate the Dodgers? But I like them in this game. I think they've been a better team than the Giants. I think they just have a more loaded roster. I think these guys know how to win. I know that the Giants kind of edged them out, but I don't know. I just think that the Dodgers are hot, and I think they're hungry, and I think that they're coming back. Honestly, I think the Dodgers are my favorite for the World Series. Um, but yeah, so I'm going to parlay those two games to make the odds go above the plus 100 mark. And yeah, so
I see
that's what I'm
nothing
going to
wrong with
lock up
that
for baseball.
parlay.
Yeah, I mean, might as well do it, right? I mean, I wasn't going to just take one baseball game. It's so hard to pick one game.
Hey, it's a Locktoberfest, baby. I
Yeah.
think you got to take that parlay.
We're going to take a Locktoberfest. What do we got right now? I've placed a total of, I think I've had 9 bets on my book right there. All right, that's for baseball. Let's go ahead, take a quick break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to talk our NFL takes, and then maybe any other little teas they take, and then we're going to wrap this up, okay?
Okay.
And we're back. We're going to talk about our NFL picks. I'll dive into this one. Okay. I'm going to
Okay.
do parlay. I follow my fantasy team pretty closely, but I'm not a huge NFL guy. So I'm going to take this little player prop and a money line parlay here. I'm going to go with Tennessee money line on the Jags. That's right. I'm coming right to home team, Tony.
Wow.
I'm gonna go with if I can get Derrick Henry over 1 touchdown. I'm gonna take that. And if I can get Marvin Jones close to around 55 receiving yards, I would like to take the over on it. I think I checked in; it was at 65 though, which is a little scary. But he is I think he's Trevor Lawrence's number one guy.
He is.
And I don't think that I think the Titans have like the 23rd best passing defense in the NFL. So I could see him getting 70 yards or something like that. So I kind of like that. I think the odds wouldn't be too bad on it. I think it'd make it interesting to watch the Jags game then. And Derrick Henry's on my fantasy team, and so is Marvin Jones. So,
You
so
got
I'm
a
gonna
good
go with
reason to
it.
watch this game.
if I didn't have enough stake with a fantasy league already on it, I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit on it. So that's going to be my little parlay lock. I don't have any odds for it yet because it's not all available yet for me. But as Sunday approaches, I will be locking it up.
Okay. Well, I actually did a little parlay on tonight's game. Not for this. Not for this. I did a play it. I was so close because I did Russell Wilson for over a touchdown and a half, which he got, and DK Metcalf over 5.5 receptions, which he's at 5 right now. But then I also had Russell Wilson completing 23.5 passes, and he comes out of the game injured. So I'm not getting that, but that's not my pick for the week. I did a 4-game parlay,
Oh my
and
gosh.
I went. There were 3 games I was very confident in, and I was said, why not parlay these? And I just throw in the 4th one. Just it made it a lot nicer to look
To
at.
make the odds better. Made the odds
Exactly.
better.
So the first game, I had the Bengals plus 3.5 against the Packers. I think the Packers are good, but I really like this Bengals offense, especially if T. Higgins comes back. I think even if they don't win, they'll cover and only lose by 3. So I think that'll be a good game.
I already
And
think you're
then
off to a ridiculously risky start. But
I'm
keep
glad you
going.
think that.
But keep
I'm
going.
glad you think that. And then I have the Cowboys -7 against the Giants. I think the Giants are an absolutely atrocious NFL team. I
I
do
do
not
too. They're
think
terrible.
I do not think they're good. I hate the Cowboys, but I don't see them winning by less than 17 points against this absolute horribly put together NFL team in New York. I just can't see them not completely dominating. And then I also have the Cardinals -5.5 against the 49ers. I think that's just way too juicy. I think the 49ers got overhyped because everyone just, I don't know why. I don't know why they get overhyped, but they do. And this Cardinals offense is on fire, and they're about to go and win this by at least 7 to 10 points, and they're going to easily cover this. And Kyler Murray is going to help my fantasy team out this week. And I'm going to say, and it's going to make me think about getting a Kyler Murray jersey, even though I'm not a Cardinals fan. And
Right, right. That's what I'm thinking.
lastly, I got to disagree with you. I think I just picked it because I'll be at the game. But Jaguars +4 against the Titans. Tennessee's coming off a loss to this another absolutely atrocious NFL team in New York.
It's all about the Jets.
It's all about the Jets, baby. And I also think the Jags, I know they got the whole thing with Urban Meyer going on this week, but they've progressively gotten better each week. They had the Cardinals, but then they did a stupid flea flicker inside their own 20-yard line that ended up as a pick six, which cost them that game and just lost momentum. And then they almost went to Cincinnati on Thursday night, and they had them, and then they just had one bad play at the 1-yard line where if they kick the field goal, that game goes to overtime. But instead, they go for a touchdown and failed. I think they're getting better, and everyone thinks they're going to lose because of this off the field stuff with Urban Meyer. But I think they're taking it. I think the Jags get their first win of the year this week. Call me crazy, but it's happening. Duval's coming back with a big win against those dirty Titans from Nashville. Duval, baby, all day. And that's my
um,
14 parlay for the NFL this
and
week,
what are
and
the
I'm
odds?
cashing it in.
What's the plus on it? When we hear it?
For the Jaguars,
No, the whole parlay. I want to hear. Have you put it in yet?
I did. Let me find it.
Yeah, I want to hear the odds on it. I want to hear the odds.
I saw it. It's showing me my parlay from tonight's game. It's making me cry. Let me dry my tears out real quick. If my
Ah
thing will
man.
load. The odds are. Oh, I actually did a futures one earlier. Is this going to show? I'm going to get angry. Okay, here we go. The odds of this. I don't know how to see it. Oh, my odds are plus 1,201.
Hey, first of all, I
Nice.
love those odds. Also, Rays just
And
cinch it up. They win
I
game one.
let's go.
And you said
I
plus
put
1201.
so I put down $5 to win 60.
I like it. Hey, I like that. This is the poor man's lock pod.
Exactly.
Damn, maybe that should be the name.
Maybe it should in this great month of October.
It's LOCKTOBERFEST. All right, I like that. I like that. All right, so that's pretty much all of our stuff. I do have one more bet I put down.
What's that?
It's on boxing on Saturday night. It's a pretty big night for boxing. Mr. Canelo will be boxing. I'm sure you've heard of Canelo before. Have you ever seen him on Instagram or anything like that?
I haven't, but I'll pretend I do.
Sure. He he's a fairly famous boxer. He's minus 900 against a guy named Caleb Plant. I know nothing about Caleb Plant whatsoever. But I know what minus 900 means. So I think Canelo's going to be able to tie that one up, and I went ahead and parlayed it with Tyson Fury. Wilder 3 is going to be on Saturday night. I thought the last fight Fury handled him pretty well. He outboxed him, he outclassed him. I mean, obviously Wilder has a puncher's chance, but considering that their last fight was against each other, I just don't think that Wilder's going to be able to shake that knockout necessarily. I think he's going to be thinking about that the whole time. He was knocked down in that fight. I think Fury's probably coming into that fight a little heavier than the last one, which was the biggest problem for Wilder. And the only fight that they were really close to was the first one. And it was really just because Fury was in such bad shape, hadn't boxed in so long. So I took Fury by knockout, technical knockout, or by Wilder's disqualification to win that fight. It made my odds go to plus 104, very conservative, but it's a plus. And I went ahead and took that. I felt like it was kind of a safe thing, a money-making proposition, you could say. So I dropped it down on that. So in total, looks like on our slip this weekend, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 down for me to pay attention to before Saturday ends. So should be pretty exciting. And I have 2 more coming in for baseball for 1 and for NFL. So that's a total of 11 that we have talked about today on my side. And Tony has talked about what has been 10?
I believe so, yes.
10. So there we go, guys. We have 21 awesome locks for you guys. I know that one of our listeners, 2 of our listeners, could be between me and Tony, listening back to make sure everything sounds right. I know that we're all going to be making some money this weekend. I think it should be pretty awesome. I think it's going to be fun. You have anything else to say, Tony?
I don't. I wish both of us the best of luck this week.
I wish both of us the best of luck.
Except on Michigan, except for your pick on the Michigan-Nebraska game.
Yeah, I will actually be watching that game pretty closely. I'm excited about that. It's going to be a close game. And a 7:30 prime time matchup, and I believe it's the only game that I will be watching at 7:30, other than the Braves game, who's going to be starting at 5. So I'm pretty excited for all that. Yeah, it should be a great time. Actually, I'm pretty sure the Braves start at 4:37. No, that's tomorrow. All right, everyone, that's the end of this lock pod. We don't know the name yet officially, so we're going to be coming up with that. Stay tuned with us, though. We're going to be posting every. Are we doing Thursday night? Is that what we're trying to do?
Thursday or Friday night.
Yeah, Thursday night or like Friday morning. I think Friday night's too late,
Yeah.
I mean, Friday night people are going to bed and they're waking up and they're going to, picks are in by noon.
Okay, I guess, yeah.
We're going to try. We're going to come out with a schedule and let everyone know. But otherwise, look for us on YouTube, and we're soon going to be on, hopefully, Spotify. And I hope everyone has a lucky weekend.
Have a good one, y'all.